So we have some new news in terms of what you yourself are doing to push back against this administration, and I was really looking forward to talking to you about this today because we have been looking for Democrats to wield what tools we do have at our disposal from the minority, and you're doing exactly that. So can you explain what you're doing?
Well, we've now got 300 holds of individual Trump administration nominees. Obviously, the Senate has to confirm every nominee that comes down that's subject to advice and consent, and a lot of these, frankly, go by unanimous consent. A lot of them go like in an evening, and there's no vote taken. And that's a normal thing to do, and it's something that I've agreed to many, many times because that's kind of the way you have to govern.
In a normal world.
In a normal world, and that's the point here. And what I'm doing is holding all of them and requiring a roll call vote for all 300 of these nominees, some of them in the State Department jurisdiction, some of them in health, education, labor, and pensions, across the United States government. I just don't think we can make anything easy for them. I also would like to point out Ruben Gallego, Adam Schiff, Dick Blumenthal are also escalating their holds in their committees of jurisdiction. So there's a broad recognition that, not everybody's going to give a 25-hour speech like my very dear friend Cory Booker, but everybody can do something. And so this is something that I could do today. Of course, I had 250 holds and I just added another 50, but Ruben and others are also stepping up. There's a broader recognition that we should not give anything away for free, even if, frankly, some of these things are not objectionable on their face. It may be a deputy administrator for a tech research agency that we have no particular objections to. But our point of view is, hey, everything takes time. And the one thing we can do to the majority party is make things take a little bit longer. And so we're going to do that.
Well, first of all, hell yeah. Like I have been a huge proponent of using what levers we have at our disposal, like in the same way that Cory Booker went out there and spoke for 25 hours. What can everybody else do in their respective areas? So for you to be able to hold up 300 people unilaterally to push back against an administration that is steeped in corruption and lawlessness, thank you. And I know I speak for my audience in saying that. What does the fact that the Senate is going to be bogged down in advancing these nominations on an individualized basis, what does that do to the broader effort of the Republicans to be able to push legislation forward, for example, in the Senate?
I mean, I want to be careful here, right? Because I can't unilaterally block them forever. I can only make them consume time.
Right.
And so if they consider a particular nominee important, they'll put them on the floor and have basically 4 hours consumed. But that means, 300 times 4, they can't do them all.
Right.
And so it does slow them down. It does complicate their efforts. I will say that as it relates specifically to their efforts to cut Medicaid and provide a big tax cut for billionaire corporations, like they're going to make time for that, right? That is their abiding priority. And we have to fight like hell against that. But we have to, have no illusions about this is basically their reason for being, is to cut Medicaid, potentially cut the Affordable Care Act, and use those revenues, in addition to the tariff revenue that everybody's paying out of pocket right now, to provide a big tax cut for corporations. We're not, there's no magic wand to stop these guys. But I think one of the things that Cory reminded us of is that we can all do something. And whatever it is that we're all in a position to do, that's the thing you're supposed to be doing. And the other thing, I talked at length before Cory took the floor. And, it was not part of some grand strategy that's been mapped out for the next 6 months. And I think that's one of the problems with Democrats is we want everything to be tight and organized and a grand strategic plan. And we're in a fight right now. And so we have to pick up whatever, this is rhetorical now, this is not physical. We have to pick up whatever rock we can find and start whipping it at the opposition and try to sort this sort of strategic and tactical questions as we go along. But in the meantime, one premise should be our abiding approach to the Senate, which is nothing for free and nothing easy.
Perfectly put. I have been thinking a lot about the fact that you're doing this. Cory stood up on the floor for 25 hours and used his power that way. And so has there been a broader recognition from Senate Democrats that everybody needs to be doing not the bare minimum, but actually the maximum? That when you guys put forward these strategies to try and either draw attention or eyeballs to what you're doing, to slow down the processes of the Republican conference. It can't be the minimum, that it has to be that what you all are doing has to be the maximum, that what you're doing has to be the bar that your colleagues are then going to say, okay, how can I break through in this media environment? How can I most effectively fight back? How can I use my platform in the biggest way possible? Has that been a discussion among you and the rest of the Democratic caucus?
Yes, it's been a discussion, but I'd also say it's a little bit of soul searching, because part of the problem here is we're 47 different people with different constituencies and different strengths and weaknesses. And so, like, not everybody can do 25 hours on the floor. Not everybody
Yeah.
has the kind of procedural background that I have in terms of blocking nominees. But, we have a lot of shadow hearings, which have been very compelling. Some people are going into House districts of Republican members who refuse to have a town hall. So I think one of the things we want to do is to say everybody should be doing something, but we don't want to be too prescriptive about what it is. Just like every citizen may be in a position to do something. Some people may want to march physically. Some people may want to post. Some people may want to influence their families or do some other kind of organizing. And I think one of the things that needs to be fixed in the Democratic coalition is we're a little fussy with each other about which tactic is supposed to work and who's doing the best in their form of resistance. Like, we should just sort of say, anybody who's helping in any way, think of it like a potluck. Someone comes in and they got a macaroni salad. Thank you very much. Someone's got Kalbi ribs. Thank you very much. Someone brought napkins. Thank you very much. Right? Like, everybody contributes something. And if everybody's kind of got a forward momentum and a belief in each other, then we're going to build this pluralistic, multicultural, people-powered movement to stop this all. And one of the things that Corey said that I thought was really right is that, and Barack Obama said that I thought was very compelling, is the most important office right now is the office of citizen. The challenge is that when you're an elected official in power and you're sort of like turning it back on citizens, it can ring a little hollow. It can sound like you're doing excuse making. And so we also have to lead by example and demonstrate we understand this has to be uncomfortable. This has to be politically uncomfortable. This has to be, in some instances, physically uncomfortable, but no business as usual.
Now, do you find that maybe you have a little bit more political capital to expend given the ways in which Donald Trump has taken a hatchet to the U.S. economy, and does that extend even over to your Republican colleagues?
Look, I don't know how much political capital I do or don't have to expend, but I would just say that one of the things that we've seen is that the frustration with Republicans for allowing this to happen and with Democrats for looking flat-footed in the first couple of months is sort of the same group of people. And they're not, like, I'm left-wing, but they're not all left-wing people. There's a lot of moderates that think that Republicans have gone off a cliff and Democrats are being too quiet. And so we don't want to characterize the desire for a ferocity of resistance as some uniquely progressive priority. It's also regular people watching their retirement savings get incinerated. People are pissed, and they want us to reflect that level of alarm.
Can I have your reaction more broadly to the fact that even in light of the fact that, we're going on several days now of the stock market plummeting, we're seeing foreign countries who I think Donald Trump thought would just capitulate, probably because he's gotten so used to being surrounded by groveling, obsequious yes men, that he thought everybody in the world was as weak as the people he surrounds himself with. And yet we're watching the EU enact retaliatory tariffs. We're watching the Asian bloc negotiate along with China at a time when we're supposed to be protecting American supremacy in the world. Instead, we're driving other countries into the arms of the exact country that we're competing with. And so can I just get your reaction to the fact that in light of all of this, we're seeing Trump not restructure his strategy moving forward, but instead double, triple, quadruple down on this idea that tariffs are perfect, everything that he's doing is A plus, and don't change anything.
They're in a bubble, right? The White House in particular. There were pretty valid criticisms of Democrats over the last, say, 6 years about being in a bubble, but I've never seen a bubble quite like this. And it goes to like White House staff, the whole Doge team, this group of young ideologues doing damage to various agencies. Like they literally don't understand how anything works. They don't understand the importance of cancer research. They don't understand the importance of preventing a baby from getting HIV/AIDS from her
Yeah.
mom. And they are in a bubble being reinforced. Eventually, those political bubbles burst. And I think our project collectively is to do two things. First, to try to make sure that we puncture that bubble as quickly as possible to minimize the damage to regular people and to the country and to the institutions that hold up this country. But the other part of this is to make sure that voters know exactly how bad these outcomes are. And I was thinking about Friday night as I think we finished at like 3 a.m. I got asleep by like 4:30 a.m. And, the truth is nobody was really paying attention to all of our votes on the House floor, or the Senate floor, because their retirement savings, their college savings, their life savings were being incinerated. Yeah. There's not much for us to say. There's no like phrasing that's going to make this worse or better for our party. What's happening is we have kind of moved from the phase of the Trump presidency where people were pissed and worried, but they were mostly observing stuff on their screens about what was happening. And this week and last week were the first week where people were like, okay, this is no longer like the way you kind of watch fantasy football and have a rooting interest in your side. This is more like, now you're talking about my money. This is my shit. This is my kid's college. This is my personal retirement. This is my mom's retirement. This is my mom's job. Things are getting very, very real, and there's nothing you can do when you are living in an information bubble to prevent people from actually feeling the impact. So I think the politics are going to turn. The question is whether they turn quickly enough for us to minimize the damage.
What do you make of the fact that you've got all these Republicans who were so quick to back Donald Trump during the campaign or over the last few years? People like Meghan McCain, for example, who came out and tweeted, "Inject every policy into my veins," who are now coming out, and Meghan McCain is one of them, Dave Portnoy is another one, now coming out and basically, recognizing that they themselves are being impacted and so suddenly have an impetus to speak out.
My view is welcome. And
Yeah.
I mean that. I mean that with zero sarcasm, with zero resentment. People, a good buddy of mine used to say, people vote for you for their reasons, not yours.
Yeah.
The purpose of politics is not to winnow down your political coalition to a purer and purer group, but rather politics is addition, not subtraction. Dave Portnoy is a big deal. I still follow him exclusively for the pizza reviews and the Boston Celtics takes.
I'm in the same boat. I watch the pizza reviews and so I get it. I understand if I'm watching him, even with all the biases I have on the political side, imagine what people who don't give a shit about politics are thinking.
Yeah. And so my view is there's a little bit of a tendency in the Democratic coalition and the Progressive coalition to go now you're here. And why did you say this earlier? Who cares? Yeah. We have to not be such a scolding coalition. We have to basically say, hey, they fucked with your money and you're welcome, right? Come on in. And either you were mistaken, but also, by the way, the other thing we've seen from polling, and this is not the recent polling, is people start to misremember who they voted for because it's been a minute, and they may not remember that they voted for Donald Trump because they were torn in that moment. And so my view is we need to welcome as many of those types into our coalition as possible. There were a bunch of people who tolerated the, kind of authoritarian tendencies and tolerated the kind of overly conservative social views because they thought he was going to be good for the money, right? Now he's not good for the money. And there are other people who tolerated this kind of overly friendly with Wall Street stuff because they thought he was going to be, sort of cruel to the people that they hated. Those people I don't think we're ever going to get back. And but I do think the reason we lost, and we lost decisively on one level, but still by 1.5%. So the reason we lost is some tiny little percentage of people said, I don't like prices. I don't like Biden because he's old. I don't like what I've been paying. And when I remember the Trump administration from the first time, I remember money in my pocket, right? And maybe they're misremembering, or maybe they're remembering correctly because during COVID, we did have a bunch of cash payments out to people. So there were a bunch of people who were very low income, low asset, levels, but they had $7,000 in the bank. They were out of credit card debt, if only for 6 or 12 months. And they wanted to go back to that time. So once you start messing with people's money, I think we should not assume that there are any permanent realignments, and those alignments only go against us, right? There was a bit of a realignment in the last election. It's a very real thing. But now we need to think about the veterans that have been laid off, the people who depend on Social Security, the parks workers, the FAA folks, the current and former military people, civilian and military, and then anybody of the 60% of the Americans who've got money in the stock market, either individual stocks or mutual funds, 401ks, 403bs. Everybody's welcome in our coalition. If you hate all this shit, you're part of the team.
Right. I think that's the perfect point, is that this isn't the time for a victory lap. This is a time where we have an opportunity to capitalize on a lot of folks who are, for whatever reason, it's not important to relitigate the 2024 election. It's over, but we have the opportunity to get them back. And usually we aren't handed these opportunities on such a silver platter as we have now, in the sense that, Trump has crashed the stock market. He's destroyed people's 401ks. He's gutting healthcare, firing veterans. I mean, again, if your goal is to just go around and finger point at people and lecture them and beat your chest, that's one thing. But the goal really should be the work of persuasion, and we have an opportunity to get a lot of these people back, and think about how much time and energy we put toward persuading people as we head toward an election. If we have the chance to use some of those tools right now and bring those people back into the fold, we should use it. So to that point, I appreciate your perspective here and appreciate the work you're doing and fighting back against this administration. Senator Schatz.
Thank you, Brian. One final point, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The word welcome is such a powerful word, right? You come into someone's house, to use that potluck analogy. You come into someone's house, if they open the door and you've got something in your hand and they don't say the word welcome, you're kind of like, oh, this is a little awkward. You're still going to walk in, you're still going to put your plate down, and you're still going to enjoy the party best you can. The word welcome is so powerful in life, but in particular in politics. So all of us have to get into the habit, even if it's just a tactical approach, even if you don't feel that in your heart of hearts, you should just welcome anyone into the coalition who wants to join you, and do not be too probing as to whether or not they're pure on every single issue or how they voted last year. If they want to join us, they are welcome, because politics is addition, not subtraction.
Perfectly put. Senator Schatz, appreciate your time.